Hello and welcome to another daily devotion as we seek to stay connected to one another while we're apart physically from one another. This week's topic, this Thanksgiving week as we give thanks and gratitude for the blessings in our life, is encouragement. And I want to tell you a short story. When Hurricane Katrina first hit, wiped out almost the entirety of the Ninth Ward district, one of the poorest districts in New Orleans. And I took a church group down there just a month and a half after it hit. And we were working with disaster relief, United Church of Christ and Disciples of Christ Disaster Relief, to go in hazmat suits and gut houses that could be saved and rebuilt for later. And it was heartbreaking going through and seeing photo albums and family pictures that were now destroyed, just things that were not the TVs or the couches, but things that people had made, people had knit, things that clearly there were stories behind, now gone. And we wondered, because the families were relocated into safe places that they could get shelter and food and water until whenever, if ever, they could return. And so we were working on trying to plant that seed of a new beginning for some of the poorest of the poor in New Orleans. And I remember feeling uplifted of our work together, though the devastation was complete. I mean, there was several blocks from the Gulf, we found boats in the middle of streets, cars waterlogged, stacked dozens high up to the bottom of the interstate bridges, and appliances and houses that said how many people were in there, how many were rescued, how many didn't make it, how many pets also were dead. And it was like being in a zombie apocalypse, it was terrible. So in the meantime, between that trip and another 6 months, I had taken a new call in Michigan. So we formed another group in that church, went down, and I thought, FEMA has all these trailers, all kinds of government support, lots of private donations and corporate donations and money. This town's going to be looking different, we're going to see some progression. And I remember getting there with this new group of folks who didn't know me very well. We just started out together, and my heart just sinking. It still looked the same. All the lights were still out. The power's out. 6 months later, debris still everywhere. The only cleanup crews I saw really working were small church groups and a couple construction sites. And that was it. And I thought, wow, where's the mobilization that I hear about in the news? What's going on? And I remember sharing this with my church brothers and sisters in a debriefing at the end of the day, a prayer devotion. And I think I kind of put a pin in the balloon. It just kind of deflated the energy of the group when I was honest about my hopes from the first trip, and then just feeling down and discouraged. And this man wrote a beautiful poem called "I Can Hammer a Nail." And he was my source of encouragement. He said, you know what? I can't put my head around all the devastation of all this Ninth Ward and how many people are displaced from their homes, how many people are dead. But what I can do is I can start to drive a nail and put up some drywall and some boards for this one family we're going to help. I may be overwhelmed by the level of devastation, and it may hurt my heart, and I might say, what can I do? What can one person do in the face of all this overwhelming sorrow? But I can do for this one. Build a bridge for this family to have hope. Recognizing the difference, discerning the difference, like the Niebuhr brothers in the Serenity Prayer. What I am able to do and what I can't, that discernment, how I can be a source of encouragement in the world. In the places that are beyond one person's effort, but maybe in organizing others, I can. Which leads me to the last point today. I just visited with a church member and her son, John. Both are Armenian. And our news doesn't cover Armenia very well. It's a small country, a small population, no strategic military value, no real strong economic value, but one of the oldest Christian nations in the world. And the Armenians today, as we're celebrating carving turkey or eating stuffing, are in the middle of a ceasefire with Turkey and Azerbaijan. Hospitals have been targeted, cluster bombs used, people butchered and decapitated. People of faith, people of the body of Christ, saying, "Hey, over here, do you see what's happening to us?" And as I sat there drinking tea and coffee with John and his mother, he said, I'm so downtrodden in my spirit. I want to encourage. I want to do something to make a difference. I want to let people know in the midst of our comfort, even in our discomfort and during COVID, and all the news around elections and stuff, that there are life and death situations that our brothers and sisters are facing. Can we find ways? He said, I worked in Armenia for 2 years building trails, trying to bring tourism to a small town in Azarok. And I want to work with the people I knew there and met there and see if we can't help some of these families that are fled from their homes being destroyed. And can we meet them in their need across oceans? And maybe most importantly say, we hear you and we stand with you. Sometimes, the United Church of Christ often talks about justice during the season of Advent, awaiting God's justice. Sometimes encouragement means standing up with a brother or sister who's being hurt and saying, I'm not going to let you stand alone. I might not feel like I got a dog in this fight, but I know your people are getting crushed, and you're my brother and sister in faith. And so with Christ, I stand with you. I speak for you when others aren't hearing or aren't saying what's going on in this corner of the world. May we find our voice of encouragement and courage in this Advent season. And may we be grateful for all the resources, spirit, physical, and financial, that God gives us for a time such as this. Amen.